find somebody who loves me, who cares about me, I'll stop feeling that way, or I'll stop feeling this way, is what I used to tell myself. I thought that rescuing other people from their own harsh life experiences would make me feel better. I thought that the more material things I had, the better I would feel, but nothing. Hi community, welcome back to Acupfulll. Thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to another episode of Healing Through Feeling, the latest installment of the series I'm doing, where I share some of the practical and actionable things I have done between last year and that I continue to do now to help me heal and live as a much more healthier and happier version of myself, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So this is the nervous system regulation edition. Before I get into explaining everything, I would like to preface this episode by saying that I am not a mental health professional and this is not mental health advice. I am merely sharing my own personal experiences, and I've also done research. I'm also not guaranteeing that this will work for you, but I am encouraging you to give it a try. So when I started understanding how deeply traumatized I was able to begin finding healthy and functional methods to help me properly soothe and find true peace. That self-soothing that I couldn't do before, I have come to a place now where I can do it, and I am in a much peaceful state of being. And also, I do not use any medication. I am not somebody that uses anything like weed or any other medicinal measures. This is all, I'm going to call it natural, but I do know that some people use medication. They will have medication prescribed to them. Other people are going to use the more traditional medicinal herbs such as weed to help with treating whatever they are experiencing mentally or emotionally. I am not using anything. This is all just practices that I apply, that I have found everywhere from the internet to podcasts to books. So that's just another disclaimer that I wanted to throw in there. I don't know how relevant it is, but I did want to just throw it in there and also just say it is relevant actually. And I'm saying this to say that, of course, given that we're not the same, but we don't always need a pill or a joint or some kind of a drink to help you regulate your system. That's not going to be the case for all of us. And I just find that it has been so good for me to find methods outside of medication such as pills, anxiety pills, or weed, or whatever the case may be. And I'm in no way saying that those things are bad or that they are wrong. I'm just saying that if you are somebody like me, you are looking for an alternative that is not going to be a pill or that is not going to be a joint, then please do try some of the things that I'm going to suggest in this episode, and just try some of the things that I'm suggesting in this series overall. So just to give you context, because I just mentioned that I don't use any pills, I don't use anything other than exercises that I do to help regulate my nervous system, talk therapy, So this context that I'm about to give is quite important in helping you understand that even if some really messed up things can happen to you or have happened to you, there is a way to find your feet again, and to do so in healthy ways, to do so in ways that really work for you. So I'm someone who used to really struggle with regulating my emotions. I also did not have healthy coping and self-soothing mechanisms. I was always anxious, looking over my shoulder, and I was hurting a lot. And when I say I was looking over my shoulder, I was in a constant state of waiting for the ball to drop. I was just waiting for something bad to happen to me or to happen in my life. And obviously at the time, I didn't realize, nor did I understand, that this was much deeper than paranoia, because that's also something I used to say a lot about myself, that I'm just a really paranoid person. It was something that was far beyond paranoia. It was a physical thing, it was a mental thing, it was an emotional thing. And I'm somebody that also used to think that I could love my way out of feeling the way that I used to feel, this constantly waiting for the ball to drop. If I can just find somebody who loves me, who cares about me, I'll stop feeling that way, or I'll stop feeling this way, is what I used to tell myself. I thought that rescuing other people from their own harsh life experiences would make me feel better. I thought that the more material things I had, the better I would feel, but nothing. Absolutely nothing. If anything, I would feel better, but it would be so short-lived, and then I would have to find something else that would make me feel better. And with me, I would just sort of increase the intensity of what it was that I was doing. So if I show up in this way, this is what I would tell myself: if I show up in this way for this person, they will continue to love me, and I will just feel the relief of this angst that I feel, this overwhelm that I feel. But it didn't help. It didn't help. And so another way to avoid my true feelings used to look like consuming copious amounts of alcohol. And I'm not saying that I do it every day, but if I'm in a setting and there is a lot of alcohol, I'm not going to control myself. That was the way I was. I wasn't going to control myself. Why? I didn't really have self-control. And so I would drink a lot, more than I should be in that moment. It didn't have to be that I was drinking every day. It just had to be me going really, really, really hard in one sitting, which was completely unhealthy. So copious amounts of alcohol or eating a lot. At some point in 2017, I was at my heaviest. I was so young, but I was also at my heaviest. I was living on campus, and I would eat so much. If I were to tell you the kind of, I was going to say eating schedule, but the way I would indulge, you would understand, because food had become my crutch at that point in time. It was food. This was before I started drinking aggressively. Food was a coping mechanism for me. And then weed became a coping mechanism for me. And then smoking happily became a coping mechanism for me. At first it was fun, but then it started to become relaxing. So yes, you can imagine that I was somebody that really just struggled with a lot of things. And sometimes coping would look like escaping into relationships in ways that were unfair to the other person, because like I said before, I was expecting them to become the safe space that I couldn't be for myself, to love me out of this anxiety, this overwhelm that I was feeling. And now I know also that that was something that the younger version of me longed for. And so I was looking for it in other people. So my therapist, when I started really getting into the conversation of just trauma and how much it has affected me, my therapist encouraged me to work from the inside out, right? So ask myself questions such as, what is motivating my behavior? What am I feeling in this moment? And just to get specific, so is it fear? Is it pity? Or is it out of a desire to help because I can? Or am I doing this because I believe that this is what will ensure that this person never leaves me? Is this what I'm telling myself? And asking myself these questions also allowed me to realize just how much I did not know how to regulate my emotions, and how as a result, a lot of the decisions I was making when it came to overstretching myself emotionally and not being able to say no, and my poor relationship with food, and the out of control alcohol consumption, and just recklessly spending money, was because I had some serious emotional dysregulation, and I was intent on understanding what exactly triggers me, how to deal with those triggers, you know, without completely destroying myself, but most importantly, how to make peace with the things that happened and move forward with my life. That's also something else that I was struggling with. This is so layered, but if you go back and listen to episodes that I recorded last year, even the year before, I do peel back on those layers. My experiences, very layered. The impact that they had, very, very layered. And I needed to peel back on those layers to get to the point that I'm at right now. I am still on a journey. I am still healing. And with healing, it's also not some destination that you're going to reach tomorrow. It will take time. But it is a place that you can get to. It's a place that you can 100% eventually get to. And I can, every single day, more and more, I can just see myself getting closer and closer to the place that I've always wanted to be at. And that is something that I'm so happy about. That's something that I'm so proud of. So, yeah, I just became a lot more intentional. And so when I came across the term nervous system regulation, I immediately looked into it. There is a TikToker who I follow. Oh my goodness, her videos have been transformational. They have helped me change the way my nervous system was set up before. They have been so transformational. They have had a positive impact on me regulating my nervous system, learning to regulate my nervous system. And all of her videos, obviously, because they're on TikTok, are free. She also has, in her bio, she has a nervous system regulation kit that you can download, and you can use that. Very, very helpful. I use her videos almost every evening, and even when I don't do a video of hers, I don't feel out of balance in any way. So basically what her videos will help you do, what they've helped me do, is the more I've done them, the more I have began to feel so much better in situations that are stressful. Obviously, there are other things that I have done outside of her videos, which I will get into in the episode, but the videos have been very, very helpful in literally physically understanding and touching the parts on my body, on my neck, that really stimulate and help heal the nervous system. And again, I will get into that. But most importantly, I'm going to leave all of her information, well, her handle, her TikTok handle, the link to her page, rather, I'm going to leave it in the show notes so that you can click, go through her page, just see what works for you. There is a particular video, I don't know if I'll be able to link it. I think I will actually. There is a very specific video that has been so, so helpful to me. And if I ever meet that lady, if there is a chance that that happens, I'm going to go up to her and let her know that she is doing some incredible work. And I'm going to tell her that her videos have helped me. That specific video has helped me so much that I can see the difference in how I react in situations. I can see how my body, I can feel and see how my body feels when I'm in a situation that is stressful now versus how I was before. Okay, so I'll leave all of that information in the show notes. So when your nervous system is well regulated, you are going to thrive emotionally, physically, and mentally. But before we get into what regulating your system is and the value of it, we need to first understand what the nervous system is. So another disclaimer, I'm going to preface this. This is complicated, right? And I am the nervous system that is. I am not going to go into detail because I do not want to say the wrong things. I will end up saying the wrong things because I am not a medical professional. I am not a mental health professional. But like I said, I have done my research, and I've also had my own personal experiences that I will be sharing, and I have a very basic understanding of what the nervous system is. I understand the parts that I'm going to be talking about today. That's the really important thing here. And also, I do want to encourage you that if you don't understand anything, pause the video, go and Google, go onto YouTube. I'm someone that learns really well and is able to understand things really well when I'm watching a YouTube video where there is sort of a diagram of whatever it is, like the nervous system, and someone in the background, or there's a voiceover where someone is explaining that this is how this works, this is how this affects this. So if you're like me, then go onto YouTube and look for a video that explains the nervous system and breaks down the subsystems, I'm going to call them. So I'm going to do my best to explain it well, but if you don't understand and you're just like, what, you have confused me, then make sure to go and Google and do your own research. So the nervous system is a complex network that governs all bodily functions. It's in charge, pretty much, of all bodily functions, from cognitive processes to physical activities. It consists of the central nervous system, which includes the brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, which is a network of nerves that connects nerve cells throughout the entire body to the central nervous system. Together, these systems enable communication between the brain, spinal cord, and various organs to regulate critical bodily functions such as movement and sensation and autonomic processes such as digestion and respiration. So just keep in mind that word autonomic, because we're going to get into that. So it is just like the power stations that make sure we get our electricity. In South Africa, we have power stations that are run by Eskom, and when those power stations have failed, when they've collapsed, when they aren't being maintained, then we don't get electricity, right? So our economy, our households, our safety, our future relies on those power stations working at optimal levels. Is it optimal or optimum? Optimum levels, either or, providing us with electricity so that we are able to get on with our lives. If those power stations don't work, like I said, we can't really, we can function, but it's going to be very difficult. It is extremely hard. The nervous system plays a crucial role in every aspect of human life, making its health and regulation essential for overall well-being. Again, the power stations are like a lifeline for us. We've all seen, especially if you are somebody that lives in South Africa, maybe you visited South Africa, maybe when you visited, maybe there was electricity, but anyways, we all know, South Africans, we all know what it has looked like when the power stations were constantly collapsing, in air quotes, because that is not true. This is not the episode for that, but I'm just saying, when they were constantly collapsing, just to be correct, or just to repeat what we were being told as a country, we ended up with aggressive load shedding. It was bringing our economy to its knees, and it was collapsing the livelihoods. It collapsed, rather, the livelihoods of millions of South Africans. Load shedding has caused so many problems that this country did not need. It is the same with the nervous system. If it is dysregulated, it affects every single part of you. It can bring your life to a complete standstill, causing significant strain to your emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical well-being. So, if the opposite of dysregulation is regulation, what does it mean in the context of the nervous system? Alright, nervous system regulation refers to the body's ability to maintain balance and adapt to stresses. So, stressful situations do not cause you to have meltdowns or crash outs. Instead of that, you are able to, in essence, manage through a difficult time. That's what happens when your nervous system is regulated. This involves a dynamic interplay between the sympathetic nervous system, which I might sometimes refer to as the SNS in this episode, which drives the fight or flight response. So think of SNS as flight or flight response, and the parasympathetic nervous system, PNS, which promotes relaxation and recovery. So SNS is fight or flight, PNS is relaxation and recovery. When your nervous system is regulated, once the stressful situation is past, your body will self-soothe and go into that relaxation and recovery mode. Effective regulation enables you to respond to challenges with resilience. You recover quickly after stressful events and you maintain emotional stability. So, for example, after a fight with a friend or a family member or even your boyfriend or girlfriend, you are able to come out of that state without losing your temper or giving the silent treatment or storming out. And I used to really struggle with this. Disagreements would trigger me so much. Whether I'm disagreeing with a friend, whether I was disagreeing with my ex-boyfriend, disagreements would trigger me. Because a disagreement with my primary caregiver growing up, they were either volatile, so lots of shouting and verbal and emotional abuse, or they were going to end with the silent treatment. Very layered, but I was also a child at the time, and so I was picking up on these things and I was learning them. So some of them were just learned, or it was sort of a monkey see, monkey do situation where I see my primary caregiver doing this, so I'm doing this as well, or this is what I've been taught, this is what I've been shown, you know. Kids are going to mimic what their parents do, what their parents show them. So within that volatility and not really having your primary caregiver, the adult in your life, being able to regulate their own emotions, that does affect you. That affects you a lot. And because these were frequent experiences, I just remained scared. I never came out of that stressful state. I was always waiting for the ball to drop. So my sympathetic nervous system was overly active. The SNS, fight or flight, it's only supposed to be activated really when you are in a situation where you need to protect yourself, right? Where your body needs to protect itself. But it was a constant for me. I realized sometime last year that I never really came out of that state as a child because I was always waiting for something to happen. And so I became an adult who ended up with a sensitized system and an inability to regulate. This would often look like stretching a disagreement or fight longer than I need to, just like sometimes very explosive responses, an inability to voice my true feelings and emotions. I was very sensitive, very fragile, so I would cry and I'd just cry and I would not be able to control that. So instead of being able to say, I'm hurt, this hurt me, I don't like how you treated me, I would start crying. And sometimes I'd even shake. I was passive aggressive. I would give the silent treatment. Like I said, this was also learned behavior. So a lot would happen during disagreements for me. I also ended up just putting myself in a position where I would always think of myself as the one that was being wronged, and that my responses were valid. So even though I was not someone violent that would throw plates and knives, I was somebody that would raise my voice. I was somebody that just didn't have control over how I expressed myself in moments where I was in a disagreement or where I was feeling like the other person is not hearing me out. But now obviously there's such a huge difference, and every time I reflect, I realize that how you are raised as a child, what you are exposed to, how your parent treats you, how your caregiver takes care of you or doesn't, really impacts you. It really affects you. And children are so vulnerable and so fragile and so sensitive. Emotionally they are sensitive, mentally they are sensitive. They are so sensitive. It's a very fragile period when they are growing up. Pre-teen years, even the teen years, toddlers, infants, toddlers, the in-between period between them being 8 years old and 10 years old, and then just those preteen years, very sensitive, and they need a parent who is going to be stable emotionally and mentally and spiritually. So my experiences looked like that, and that's why I ended up with such a sensitized nervous system. Well, specifically the sympathetic nervous system. But that is not all. Okay, I'm not done with the explaining and the breaking down. The SNS and PNS, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system, they would not be able to effectively work without the autonomic nervous system, right? The autonomic nervous system is a key component of the nervous system that regulates involuntary bodily functions such as heart rate, breathing, digestion, and blood pressure. Remember, I mentioned it before and I said just keep it in mind. So the ANS operates through two primary branches. The sympathetic nervous system, which I've been mentioning, SNS, which activates the body's stress response, and the parasympathetic nervous system, PNS, which restores calm and promotes recovery. These systems work together to maintain homeostasis, ensuring the body responds appropriately to environmental changes. So in this book that I mentioned in last week's episode, What Happened to You, by Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey, Dr. Bruce Perry says that stress is good for us. It is good for our development. It's important for us as human beings, but not too much stress. And that's why when a situation arises, like someone having to survive living in the streets, and surviving a very cold winters, their body will go into stress, right? And then it won't come out. Their body stays in that sensitized state. The sympathetic nervous system becomes very, very sensitized because they don't have blankets, they don't have things to keep them warm, and later on some of them will die from that because they would have developed maybe chronic illnesses as a result of their system just being overly sensitized, and they just end up with various other illnesses. So it's good when you get hungry, your body's in stress, and then when you go and make a sandwich and you eat, your body comes out of that. It's the same as when you're cold, your body kicks in to protect itself, and then when you come out of that and you wear a jacket and you get something warm to drink, then it moves into the parasympathetic nervous system. So stress is good for our development, for our growth. The body knows how to handle stress, but the body won't be able to handle too much stress over too long of a period. Then it just doesn't know how to function properly anymore. So let's quickly look into what the two systems do, right? The sympathetic nervous system prepares the body for immediate action by increasing heart rate, dilating airways, and redirecting blood flow to essential muscles. This fight or flight response is crucial for survival, but it can become harmful, as I said, when activated excessively or inappropriately. So if a person was raised in a volatile environment, or if they had an unpredictable caregiver, and by unpredictable, I mean 1 minute they are happy, the next minute they are angry, or if they are in an abusive relationship, this can result in a fight or flight system that is activated excessively. You are constantly waiting for the ball to drop. And what is really scary and just so heartbreaking is even a 3-year-old system can become like that. It's not just adults whose systems become like that. A 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, just being in a volatile environment. And babies are very sensitive. They are the most sensitive. Children are the most sensitive. They pick up on these things. They can feel these things emotionally, mentally, physically. And so this is not just something that comes into play when you're an adult. It's something that you can start experiencing when you are little, and the body is just that sensitive. The body is just that sensitive. I remember in this book I'm reading, What Happened to You, well, rereading it, Dr. Bruce Perry said in one chapter that people have the wrong idea that babies are so resilient and that they don't really remember anything. Babies remember a lot. Little children remember a lot. If it was severely traumatic, then your brain, your mind, or you, however it works, you will maybe push it to the back and lock it away. And that's why sometimes when some people go for hypnotherapy, those kinds of memories end up becoming unlocked. It's because it was so traumatic that you pushed it to the back of your mind, or that you closed it away somewhere in your mind. But the body does keep score, and we do remember these things, and they do have an impact in one way or another. So like I said, stress is good for you. When you are hungry or when you are cold, your sympathetic nervous system becomes activated. But as soon as you do something like wear a jacket and become warm or eat something, you are going to be fine again. Chronic overactivation of the sympathetic nervous system is associated with increased stress hormones, high blood pressure, and reduced immune function. And then the parasympathetic nervous system, it helps counterbalance. So the opposite, the effects of the sympathetic nervous system, by promoting relaxation and recovery. Functions of the parasympathetic nervous system include slowing the heart rate, stimulating digestion, and enhancing immune function. The vagus nerve, which I will talk about in a minute, is a major component of the parasympathetic nervous system, PNS, and plays a significant role in regulating these processes and maintaining emotional and physical health. And when the parasympathetic nervous system functions optimally, that's the word I was looking for earlier, it supports mood regulation, restful sleep, and overall well-being. So just on the vagus nerve quickly, please make sure to research this as well, because if you are going to watch some of that lady's videos, you are going to need to know what the vagus nerve is and how exercising it or not exercising it, stimulating it, helps with healing your sympathetic nervous system, or nervous system just as a whole. So the vagus nerve plays a key role in regulating many of our body's functions. Its name best describes its physical characteristics. Vagus, it's Latin for fugitive or wanderer. So it wanders, right? It is the longest and most widely extended of the nerves of the body. It wanders through the body. It's long. It is one that the minute you start stimulating it, the minute you start working on healing it, then that's the right place to start. It helps a lot to be stimulating your vagus nerve and to be doing exercises that are pretty much exercising it. Exercises that exercise it. Exercises that make sure that it is being stimulated equates to just the healing of the system overall. So what happens during nervous system dysregulation? With a dysregulated nervous system, individuals are going to experience heightened reactivity to stresses. You're going to have a difficulty calming down, and you're going to have this lingering sense of overwhelm even after stress has passed. As I mentioned earlier, this often happened with me, where I was waiting for the ball to drop. This state can disrupt the balance between the SNS, fight or flight activation, and PNS, calm and relaxation, leading to overactivation of stress responses and suppression of recovery mechanisms. So overactivation of stress responses, it's that thing I was talking about where I used to scream and shout, or where I would just have these very reactive responses. That's what it was. That's what it was. It was the system that was sensitized, and I was just overreacting. It also affects the suppression of recovery mechanisms. Symptoms of a dysregulated nervous system include difficulty concentrating, frequent headaches, trouble falling asleep, chronic stress, and physical symptoms like gut issues and muscle tension. Speaking of gut issues, at the beginning of 2023, I started experiencing, it was late 2022, beginning of 2023, I started experiencing some very serious gut issues. But because I did not have the knowledge that I have now, I just thought that maybe something in my throat is torn, like my esophagus or something of the nature, because I could not eat solids. It was painful. It felt like I was swallowing pins and needles. It felt like somebody was stabbing me in the throat. It was so painful. So I was just drinking soup, and I was not eating any hard foods. I couldn't eat any spices. I wasn't eating meat. It was such a bad time, but I just did not know that it was probably a symptom of a dysregulated nervous system. And around that time, I was just having a lot of trouble with being triggered. I'm not going to go into that, but I was having a lot of trouble with just being triggered, and this is probably something that was also constantly having me in that state of fight or flight, where my system was just stressed. My sympathetic nervous system was becoming more and more activated and overly activated and very, very sensitive. So I got very sick, and I think I lost almost 10 kilograms. I was so thin and I was so unwell. You could even see the bone, my collarbone protruding, and that's not how I normally look. That's not my normal weight. It just wasn't. And obviously I just felt so unwell emotionally as well. My clothes had become so big on me. It was not a good time at all. And so I realized much later on that my gut issues were probably being caused by a nervous system that was severely dysregulated. Prolonged nervous system dysregulation significantly impacts the immune system. It leaves the body more vulnerable to infections and chronic inflammation. And chronic activation of the SNS, which can be likened to a tap that stays open and the water just keeps running, but not into a bucket or anything like that. It just is running out into the ground or onto the ground, increases the production of stress hormones such as cortisol, which, when persistently elevated, can suppress immune function. And this makes it harder for the body to fight off infections, and it may lead to low-grade systemic inflammation. Over time, these immune dysfunctions can contribute to the development of chronic health issues such as autoimmune disorders, cardiovascular disease, and metabolic syndromes. So this is very, very serious, and it can become extremely, extremely severe. Furthermore, the relationship between the nervous and immune systems is closely tied to gut health. A dysregulated nervous system can impair the gut-brain axis, disrupting the microbiome and contributing to leaky gut syndrome. So it's very complicated. It can become very, very serious. It can cause some serious threats to your health and your well-being. A dysregulated nervous system, that is. The consequences of nervous system dysregulation extend beyond physical health. Immune suppression and systemic inflammation can exacerbate mental health conditions and mood disorders such as anxiety and depression, and create a feedback loop that deepens dysregulation and hinders recovery. Understanding and addressing these impacts through nervous system regulation techniques can break the cycle and promote healing on multiple levels. Again, I am a testament of that. So much healing has come to my body, to my mind, to my heart. So what causes a sensitized nervous system? Right, I've been talking about how I had experiences in childhood. I also had experiences in my teenagers, in young adulthood, that was just adding to a system that was already overloaded and just having a difficult time. But anyways, let's get into what causes a sensitized nervous system. So chronic stress can be one of those things. It's one of the most common causes of a dysregulated nervous system. When your body is continually exposed to stress, your nervous system stays in a state of high alert, and over time, an overactive stress response can result in hypervigilance and overwhelm. So this can be anything from a very stressful work environment to a stressful home situation to a stressful romantic relationship, stressful friendships, really anything. And additionally, the way individuals perceive and manage their stress plays a critical role. So for instance, poor coping strategies or maladaptive beliefs can amplify the body's stress response. The second one is trauma. can be physical, can be emotional. These can lead to nervous system dysregulation. This includes events like accidents, surgeries, abuse, or witnessing distressing events. The third one, adverse childhood experiences. So negative experiences during childhood, such as neglect, physical or emotional abuse, or living with a family member who has mental health or substance use issues. This can impact the development of the nervous system and cause serious dysregulation. Moreover, adverse childhood experiences or unresolved emotional traumas can cause the nervous system to be stuck in a state of hyperarousal or hypoarousal, leading to dysregulation. Another one is lifestyle factors. Poor diet, lack of physical activity, and inadequate sleep. These can disrupt the normal functioning of your nervous system. In particular, stimulants like caffeine and alcohol, as well as certain medications, can overstimulate the nervous system and lead to dysregulation. So imagine my system was already sensitive, and then I had all of these experiences, and then I came to a place where I was consuming alcohol out of control when I would do it. You can imagine what that was doing to my nervous system. Another one is underlying health conditions. So certain health conditions such as autoimmune diseases, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and hormonal imbalances can contribute to nervous system dysregulation. So there is a lot. There's probably so much more. You can again go and look into it, but these are just some of the more common ones that a lot of people experience. They experience those, that is the reason why their nervous system is dysregulated. We're all different, we all have different stories, but these are the ones that came up as the more common ones when I was doing research. So we know all of this information now about what the nervous system is, the two branches through which the autonomic nervous system works, which are the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system. We know what causes nervous system dysregulation. And now we're going to look at the signs. What are the signs that something is wrong? So a dysregulated nervous system can manifest in a variety of physical, emotional, and behavioral signs, right? There are a lot. Here are some of the common ones that someone might be experiencing nervous system dysregulation. So number one is emotional symptoms. Anxiety. You are constantly worried, or you have a sense of impending doom. I was once there. Irritability. You are just always frustrated, or you're always angry, and it's most of the times over small issues. Same. I was a very irritable person before. I would have very reactive reactions. I'd be very reactive rather when faced with those with the smallest of the smallest issues. If someone left a cup on the counter with a tea bag in it, or they left the milk on the counter, best believe I would be furious. And whilst it is irritating, it isn't something that you should be shouting about. It isn't something that you should be throwing a tantrum about. Mood swings, right? Sudden changes in mood that seem out of proportion to the situation. Again, maybe somebody threw something of yours on the floor, or they pushed a paper of yours by mistake, fell off the desk, they pushed it off, whatever happened, and all of a sudden your mood changes. Second one are physical symptoms. So fatigue. You are probably feeling drained or exhausted, or even after you've slept, you're just tired all the time. You are having sleep issues, insomnia, or disrupted sleep patterns. I used to really struggle with this a lot. I would sleep at maybe 9 o'clock or 10, and I would wake up at 1 or even 12, and I wouldn't be able to go back to sleep until 4 o'clock. And that was obviously was just disturbing my sleep patterns, and it was making me feel so fatigued. I was so fatigued during the day whenever I would experience that, and it used to happen often. Sometimes I would not fall asleep. I'd be in bed at 10 and I wouldn't fall asleep until 12 or 1. Muscle tension, especially in the shoulders or the neck or the jaw. Heart palpitations, so racing heart or irregular heartbeat. And headaches or dizziness. So these are frequent and they're persistent headaches, and you're just feeling lightheadedness as well. The third one is cognitive symptoms. So you experience brain fog, right? You have a difficulty concentrating, you are forgetful, you have a lot of confusion. Again, relatable. Racing thoughts. Me. This used to be me. Thoughts that move too quickly, making it hard to focus or relax. I also had problems with overthinking, my word. Memory issues, trouble remembering things, or staying organized. The fourth is behavioral symptoms. So you struggle with avoidance. You avoid social situations or tasks that may cause stress. You intentionally avoid them. You overreact, responding more intensely to situations than you should be. Again, same. Used to be me. Another behavioral symptom is numbing behaviors. Relatable once again. I can relate to a lot of these because I was once here. So turning to substances like alcohol, food or drugs, or other unhealthy habits to cope. It can be having sex with multiple different people, and that's just how you cope. It can be maybe stealing. So there are various other things that I can think of, but yeah, this is pretty much using unhealthy habits to cope. The fifth one and the last one are the physical stress responses. So fight, flight, or freeze response, frequent feelings of being on edge, or an exaggerated startle response to stimuli, very jumpy, right? And then lastly, digestive issues. Like I said, I struggled with this myself. Stomach discomfort, nausea, or changes in appetite. So obviously, we are all different. We are not all going to have the same symptoms or signs. Not everyone is going to show in the same ways because we are all very different and we have all had very, 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 very different experiences. But like I said, these are the more common ones. But remember also, there's a way to heal. I continue to, and I have never felt better about myself, emotionally, mentally, physically. There's a way. Let's get into that, right? So the exercises that I mentioned, and you will see that for yourself if you choose to go and take a look, they have been very, very helpful for me. This first one I'm going to mention, it happens a lot in the exercises. Deep breathing. So slow, deep breaths, like 4, 7, 8 breathing. So you inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8. This can help reset your nervous system. And I do a lot of deep breathing in the exercises that I do with the lady that I mentioned. I'm not going to say her name because I'm very scared of butchering it, and that's why I keep calling her the lady. Another way is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. So you identify 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, 3 you can hear, 2 you can smell, and 1 you can taste. And this helps distract and bring your awareness to the present. And then cognitive behavioral therapy. This can help reframe negative thinking patterns and reduce anxiety. Very, very helpful. Regular exercise. Yes. I'm always going to recommend this. This has helped so much. Physical activity helps release built up tension and supports overall nervous system health. So it doesn't have to be lifting weights. It doesn't have to be that. It can be walking, it can be swimming or gentle stretching. That can be very, very, very beneficial, right? Nutrition. Eating a balanced diet, very important. Nutritious diet supports overall brain and nervous system function. So foods that are rich in omega-3s like fish, flax seeds, antioxidants like berries, and magnesium like leafy greens, these can support nervous system health. Sleep hygiene, very, very important. I am personally not a part of the trend or people that believe that resting is something that you should be doing when you are 6 feet under, or resting is overrated, or resting is not going to get you anywhere. Personally, resting has gotten me everywhere and more. So I'm going to always recommend it and always tell you to prioritize restful sleep, it's very important for nervous system repair, especially if you're somebody who is wanting to repair your nervous system. You need to develop a relaxing bedtime routine and ensure you're getting enough sleep. 8 hours. 8 hours, please. If you are going to push it, do 7. Don't do anything less than that. All right? Social support. Talking with a trusted friend or family member or therapist can help you feel safe and supported, which is key for nervous system healing. Very, very, very important. You need to have people that are going to have your back. Boundaries. Learning how to set healthy boundaries with others helps reduce the stresses that may be contributing to dysregulation. Saying no is perfectly fine. Telling people I don't want to, or I can't, or I don't like this, that's fine, okay? Self-compassion. This one is very important. You need to practice kindness towards yourself, especially when you're struggling. This can create a sense of safety for your own nervous system, and that's where you come to a place also where you become your own safe space. Time in nature. You need to spend time in natural environments. Get off your phone, please. The natural environments have a soothing effect on the nervous system, and it helps to regulate stress hormones and promote relaxation. Reduce your stresses. You need to reduce your stresses. Limit stimulants. Reduce caffeine, alcohol, or nicotine. That is something that can be very helpful. These substances can exacerbate anxiety or dysregulation. Another one that I've seen has helped me personally is time management. You need to find ways to simplify your schedule or prioritize rest. This can help reduce overwhelm. Have a consistent routine. Just like you need to sleep consistently, have a consistent routine. Establish a predictable, nurturing daily routine, and that's going to give your nervous system a sense of stability and safety. Have your morning routine, have your daytime routine, have your nighttime routine. You need that stability, you need that consistency, you need that safety. So regular sleep, meals, and self-care practices, those create a foundation of calm. And sometimes self-care is not going to be a bubble bath or a scented candle. Sometimes self-care is going to be switching your phone off. It's going to be deleting the app. It's going to be putting a time limit on the app. It's going to be saying no to going out on a Friday after work. Please don't forget, very, very important, that healing your nervous system is a journey. It's not a quick fix. But the more you implement these strategies, the more you look at things from a different perspective, the more you are going to notice improvement. And small steps over time can make a big difference in how you feel and respond to stresses. And I always say it's the little steps, the little daily things that you do, those daily habits that you end up developing. Those are the things that are going to help you make a success of the bigger picture of healing your nervous system and doing it well. Okay, all right. Yeah, this is where we are ending this week's episode. I've been doing a lot of talking. My voice is even feeling crackly and crunchy. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it if you've gotten to this point of the episode, and I want to hear from you. Let me know how you felt about this episode. Share your thoughts. I always leave the link to the acupfulll TikTok page, and I always also leave the email address. So if you want to talk in the DMs on TikTok, you're more than welcome to send me a DM. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you want to talk via email, I 100% guarantee you that I will get back to you. Please, please, please do share your thoughts. I love to engage in conversation, and I love to hear other people's thoughts. So yeah, if you have thoughts, share them with me. Don't forget that acupfulll is on all listening platforms. If there is someone that you know would benefit from listening to this episode, please, please, please do share it with them. I would really, really appreciate that. Share the podcast. Rate the podcast if you are enjoying it here. If you enjoy the episodes, the content, please leave a rating and leave a comment. And if you don't want to comment on the platform you're listening from, like I said, you can email me or you can DM me on TikTok. Have a lovely remainder of this week. Rest when you need to, work when you need to. Be kind to yourself and others. That is very, very important. please don't forget that healing is not linear, and that you are very, very capable of healing and of getting to the place that you've always wanted to get to, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and even physically. And most importantly, keep doing the things that fill your cup.